Sandy.
Chucky.
We have a very special guest today, and our first guest of the year, actually. And I'm going to let you introduce him.
Yes,
He's that
Jim
special.
Spruell. I don't know how to describe you because you're a man of many trades. I'm going to start by saying father,
Very good.
artist, musician, director of an award-winning documentary, Wolf's Message. And you are also the founder of Zuza Films.
Zuza,
correct?
yeah. Zuza, yeah.
Zuza Films.
Mhm.
And a master storyteller.
Oh, thank you very much.
Wow, we
That's
only have
pretty
3
good.
hours.
I know
Yeah,
we
that's-
only have 3 hours. Zuza. What does Zuza mean?
Zuza is, if you've ever tried to name a company, and I'm sure both of you have, every name is taken. So you pretty much, I had to make up something. I didn't want it to be Jim Spruell Productions. And when I met my wife, she was a film rep for a company called Zuzu, Z-U-Z-U, out of Richmond, Virginia. And I was in the D.C. Market at the time. And so when it came time to form my own company, they've been defunct for a long time. I said to my wife, I said, "What if I'll just do Zuzu Films?" And she said, "No, bad juju." I said, "Okay." One of my nicknames for my wife is Za, Z-A. So I smushed together Zuzu and Za, so it became Zuza Films.
See,
So there you go.
You have a story for everything.
Pretty much.
And you're really just one of a kind.
Oh, thank you.
On every level. And I was first introduced to you, of course, by evidential medium and spiritual teacher Suzanne Giesemann. And I really wanted you to be on the show, especially to start off the new year, because you offer so much hope and you offer so much inspiration.
Thank you.
And you really live that way. So I want to talk first about your beautiful son, Dakota.
Okay.
And I want people to know a little bit about Wolf's Message, the documentary, and how that came into being.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, I can do that. Well, Dakota, James Spruell, is our son, and he is now our son in spirit. And backing up just a hair, both of our children are adopted, and both are Native American. I'm a mutt, like most people. I'm Cherokee, Powhatan, and Scottish. And my wife has some Seminole, and we really wanted to adopt Native American children. And those are both stories about our daughter Savannah and Dakota are incredible. Dakota was a full-blood Inuit, which is like a Pacific Northwest tribe, and Savannah is Mexican and Kiowa, and Kiowa is an Oklahoma tribe. And she's 23 right now, just changed majors. She's a studio art major, which makes us very happy and makes her happy too. Yeah, she's a great ceramicist. Is that the way? I don't know.
Really?
Yeah, she's actually really great. That's her favorite thing to do. And she has gifts in all sorts of areas, but she loves that. Of course, it's the hardest way to make a living of all the arts probably. But anyway,
so she will find a way.
She will. She's awesome. She's this big, bright light. She'll do great. But backing up to Dakota, we adopted him when he was 12 days old. And he passed away on November 23rd, 2021, at 23 years old. And just an amazing, you guys would have both loved him. He was a incredible guitar player. A great artist, great writer, funny as hell, and had a heart as big as Texas. And he was just one of those special dudes. And he looked like a rock star. He was.
Let me interject quickly there. I was looking at some of his photos earlier.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, it's like Jim Morrison or something. It's just the epitome of cool.
He
rock
was. Yeah.
Look. Just like, wow.
Well,
Wow.
I told him one time, he in spite of his gorgeous appearance, beautiful physicality, and his amazing heart and his amazing brain, he was like a lot of artists and musicians. He had that insecure streak, And one time I
Mhm.
told him, I said, "Buddy, if I looked like you, was as smart as you are, and as funny as you are, I'd be the vainest son of a bitch in the room."
Mm.
He was just an amazing guy on all levels. And what's beautiful now is with our belief system the way it is, and I never try to convert anybody to the way I think or believe, but he's very active in his post life period, I guess, if you want to call it that too.
Mhm.
And he pulls amazing stunts all the time. I mean, to the point where my wife and I just kind of go, "Yeah, all right, buddy. Thank you very much. Thank you very," because he early on he started doing that sort of stuff. And what's funny is that's the way he was when he was here,
He was. He was
in
always like
physical
that.
form. Yeah, he was just
Mm.
funny. He was a bit of a prankster. And Sandy, if you want me to jump into the Suzanne Giesemann part of how we met, I mean that
Yes.
ties in pretty well because. Um, when he passed away, my wife started reading every near-death experience book she could get her hands on, every spiritual book, and she and I were always very spiritual people to begin with. But
Okay. I was going to ask you that.
yeah, we were. I mean, in spite of growing up Southern Baptist, I was, I was, I was pretty well. I was a spiritual guy. I believed in the afterlife, and so did my wife, and it was, but it was in a different form, I guess, a different way to look at it. And then when he passed away, and by the way, he was struck by a vehicle and
Mm.
died 9 days later.
Okay.
Oh,
He was living in the
wow.
band house with his bandmates and his best friend Nolan, and Nolan has had some pretty cool experiences with Dakota after he passed as well. But they've been buddy. They were best friends since the second grade, and they were in a band
Wow.
together called Sunshine Slowdown, which I thought it was like a really beautiful poetic name for a band, and it
I was
actually.
going to say, do you have their music now?
I,
Like, is
uh,
it available to listen to?
um,
Can one hear it or anything?
um, yes. I'd have to. If you go to YouTube and look up "Sunshine Slowdown," that's the easiest way
Okay,
to get to it.
Okay.
I'm going to write that
"Sunshine
down.
Slowdown," and again, like they had one of their fans was Sean Lennon. Sean Lennon loved
Oh,
them.
wow.
Yeah, and
Really?
yeah, they.
He wrote them?
Oh, he was a
No,
fan.
he was a fan of theirs, and
Okay.
he and they would write back and forth, mainly Nolan and Sean, and it was. It was interesting because Sean hated the name of the band.
Really?
Yeah, but and the way that they actually got introduced. I'll take a million cul-de-sacs. So tell me
Yeah,
when to
it's
shut up.
okay.
But the way that they met is that Nolan, Dakota's best friend since second grade, is Cindy Wilson of the B-52s.
Oh,
Okay.
Yoko Ono was a big fan of the B-52s because of the way, they're sort of whacked out. Like if you listen to Rock Lobster and they're doing all
mm,
those, that's very Yoko Ono.
mm.
And so she was a fan of theirs. And then Sean he was playing like uh, really like a club tour with his band. It's not the one with Les Claypool of Primus, but he had a band before that. And so, since Cindy was there, they went backstage, met Sean, and Sean met Nolan. They started talking music. Sean listened to their music, and he liked their music, which was really cool.
Wow.
Mhm.
And but anyway, so again, pull out of that cul-de-sac. Dakota was living in the band house with Nolan and his bandmates, and he went to a convenience store to get a Monster Energy drink. I think they were going to the movies, and then he was struck by a car, and he died 9 days later. So.
Mm.
So
Wow.
Wow.
that's how we quote lost him. Although we like to say transitioned. That's how he
Mhm.
I
transitioned.
like to say that too. And
And
I did you I mean, as a parent, and I'm looking at you now, like what a gift that you came across Suzanne, but in the most, interesting of ways. So talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, that's where I started. Thank you, Sandy. I have terrific ADD, which helps.
Well,
which
welcome
helps
to the club.
Yeah, but it helps with what
that.
I do for a living. Whether I'm painting or doing art or writing or whatever, or playing guitar and writing. And but anyway, that's where I was starting. My wife Gloria, when Dakota transitioned, she was reading every book. I mean, we were eyeball deep in grief, and as you can imagine, it's like, and she was looking for anything to help, and I was too. But I kind of buried myself in work. I mean, I was still grieving heavily, but I still had to pay the bills and stuff. So, but anyway, she started reading all these books and by beautiful spiritual people like Richard Rohr, Rohr, awesome. I think he's 82, and I think I'll get it wrong, and Gloria will correct me later, but he's either a Franciscan priest or a Jesuit, one of the two. But anyway, brilliant thinker, and very, very spiritual. And his whole, if I were summing that man up in a word, is he feels that most people have lost a sense of awe. And I would agree with him. But anyway, so Gloria, she was just, we were both in a terrible place, and she was reading, and she would come in there and say, "Hey, you got to read this, And so I was reading through her. She was sort of my screening person, and but anyway, we live out in the sticks, and so there aren't bookstores around. So she got all her books through Amazon, and one day she went to her Amazon account, and looked, and there was a book in her cart, and she hadn't put it in there. I hadn't put it in there. And she looked at it, and it was a book by somebody named Suzanne Giesemann. Gloria had never heard of Suzanne Giesemann. I'd never heard of her. And, but she looked at it and then read all the information on it, like, what it was about. And it was called Still Right Here by Suzanne Giesemann. Great book. And, so anyway, it was the general theory of that. Suzanne would not like me boiling it down to a nutshell. It's basically like those that you love, they aren't far away up in a heavenly cloud playing a harp. They're literally still right here with you. They're also with God because they're eternal beings, but they're right here with you. And what a beautiful, comforting thing for somebody like Gloria and I, and anybody who's lost anybody they love. And so, so anyway, the book shows up. And Gloria was like a kid at Christmas. I mean, she's like ripping it open. She's like, "Oh my God, oh my God." And then I was sitting in there working on a script or something. And she goes, I hear her turn the page. She goes, "What the hell?" And she turns another page. She goes, "What the hell?" And I'm like, "What's the matter, sweetie?" And she goes, "Look at this." And she hands it to me, and, I turn it, and every page of the first half of the book, like page 128, is upside down and backwards, printed upside down and backwards in the book. Wow. Last half was regular, so it's almost like a yin yang, half of it was upside down and backwards and the other was like, and so,
what did you think? That's kind of strange.
I thought it was strange, but I'm also a fixer, and my wife was upset. And I was going to fix it, by God, and so I had my computer open anyway. So I look up this Suzanne Giesemann person. I literally Google search Suzanne, and I find an email, and I just fire something off, and it was not a very nice email.
Because you thought she had purposely written the book like that.
No, what I thought was that they had no production, what's the word? Supervision. Like they just had it printed. Nobody looked at the stuff. So I'm like, and I think I said, "What kind of supervision do you do over your production? This is almost cruel that my wife was waiting for this book." Not a nice email. And Suzanne, sometimes she's presented my email to probably thousands of people by now because it's the way we met. And so within 2 minutes of firing off this not so nice email, I get an email back from Bev, who is has been with her for 14 years, is
Right.
sort of her executive assistant or whatever. And really sweet note. Bev's a sweet lady. And it just said, hey, we are so sorry. That book has been printed hundreds of thousands of times. This has never happened. Don't worry about it. We'll get you a new book, blah, 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 blah. We are so sorry. Then about 2 minutes after that, I get one from Lynette. And the time when Lynette was also working for Suzanne and said the same thing. It's like, hey, I'm so sorry. This never happens. And, we apologize. We know that was a terrible thing. Then about 2 minutes after that, or maybe 5 minutes after that, we get a note from Suzanne. Well, by then, Gloria and I had been talking and, we were like, think of all the wacky stuff Dakota has done since he's transitioned. Maybe he pulled this off. Maybe this is him doing this. And so we were like, yeah, because he had done stuff with lights. He had done stuff with a bracelet of mine. He had done all this wackadoo.
What's the time period from when he first transitioned to when you received the book?
This was probably, and I'll probably get it wrong, Chuck, but it was probably about a year.
Okay.
It was probably 8 months to a year, somewhere in there, 6 months to a year. I'm terrible. I can't read a calendar.
Okay.
It drives my people I work with crazy. But
so you get an email finally from Suzanne.
And this is after. Well, the email from Suzanne happened 5 minutes after Bev and Lynette's emails. Mm-hmm. I thought Chuck was talking about the book, but the book showed up. That was probably 6 months out, but that evening it came about 5 minutes after Lynette's. But by then, like I say, Gloria and I had been talking about it, and it was like, I bet maybe this was him up to his craziness. And so,
God, thank God you guys have such an open mind.
Well,
because
by then we had to, Sandy. It was almost like there had been so much stuff that Dakota had done that had no other explanation at all. There was no other way. I mean, it was like, okay, there's no way that could have physically happened. I guess that was Dakota. I mean, so with this book thing, even though she was upset and all that, we started laughing about it because probably Dakota again. And then, so we get this email from Suzanne right after 5 minutes after Lynette's. And she said, let me ask you a couple of things. It's an email. Did Dakota, was he a bit of a prankster? And he was. And then she said, and did he have a wacky sense of humor, which he most certainly did. He turned us on to all sorts of great comedy. And then the third one, she said, did he see the world differently from everybody else? And he most certainly did. And she said, we'll get you a new book. Don't worry about that, blah, blah, blah. She said, but I've been doing this for decades now, and I've learned that spirits on the other side tend to have the same personality that they did on this side, especially when they want you to recognize them. She said, I venture to say that Dakota did that to that book. So,
wow.
Yeah. So that's how we met Suzanne. And then the story it wiggled together in a couple of other ways, because after that, every once in a while, Dakota would just kind of pop in on her. Not in a heavy wolf, passive harness kind of way, but he would just pop in, and I can tell you some of those stories. But he had done that so much. Oh, and then Suzanne said at the end of that email, I really want to give you guys a reading.
Wow, so what a gift!
Oh yeah, I mean her waiting list, I think at that time was like 3.5 years. And
had you ever done a reading with a medium before?
We had done one about 3 weeks, I guess, before the one with Suzanne, and it was actually given, the medium's name was given to us by one of my clients, who's also a dear friend of mine, and she was always is still a very spiritual person, and she just said, I don't know if you're into this or not, Jim, but if you guys ever wanted to talk to a medium, I've got a wonderful medium, and I bet she would help you guys. And her name was Chantal. And So she gave us a reading, and that reading was pretty spectacular too.
Okay.
And the difference between hers and Suzanne's was, it was so clear that Chantal was really connected to Dakota, because she would say, he's telling me this, and I know this about him. I know this. And unless they had like cameras planted all over our house, this wasn't something you could Google,
Right.
Dakota
Right.
Spruell, what about him? It was just amazing and very, very specific. Same way Suzanne is, very evidential. And what was interesting about Chantal, she really picked up on Dakota's struggles. He struggled a lot in spite of his, he had an IQ of over 155, which is borderline genius.
Wow.
And I used to always say, that's how you know he was adopted. But he had every wiring issue you can imagine.
Okay.
Severe, acute ADD, mild dyslexia, anxiety, depression, sensory integration dysfunction, which is similar to ADD but worse. And when we first had him tested, they said, imagine a wall. This is Dakota. Imagine a wall with 18 TV screens on it. Each one is set to a different channel, and the volume is the same on all 18 channels.
Wow.
That's Dakota's brain.
What is that called?
It's called sensory integration dysfunction.
And did Dakota agree with that?
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, he did.
Because he could have a conversation with you guys or with either one of you and be looking you right in the eye, and yet he could tell you about the person sitting behind you and what they were doing. And I watched him one time when he was a little kid taking a test, and he was working. I was watching through the window, and I think it's second grade, and he's doing his test, and he lifts the pencil up and he starts looking at it. And he's looking at it, turns around. And then the teacher comes up and pats him on the shoulder, Dakota, do your stuff. And so he'd go back to it. And I asked him later, I said, well, hey, buddy, I was watching you. What were you looking at on the pencil? He said, well, and it's second grade. And I said, well, I was looking at it. And I was like, well, it's got an eraser on it. That eraser looks like it's made out of rubber. I think the rubber tree plant comes from blah, 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 blah. And Dad, it's part of the, it's this gene.
What?
Yeah, he would go off on this stuff, and meanwhile, he's supposed to be taking like 2 + 7 = 9 test, and yet he's in Bolivia thinking about rubber tree plants, and
oh my gosh,
and that's the way. But because of all that, it led to a lot of anxiety and depression and stuff like that, and because he was like he knew how smart he was, and yet. Why am I the last one to finish a test? Why am I, why am I not doing well in school? And So later, when he got older, I remember the first time we told him he had ADD, his little Inuit eyes filled up with tears. And he said, is there a cure for it, Daddy? And I said, no, buddy, you don't want a cure. You got to learn to mess with it. You don't want a cure. I've got it too, bud. What you need to do is figure out how to use it to your advantage. And
wise words.
Yeah. Well, he in one of the readings with Suzanne, she said he loves the fact that you guys accepted him for how he was and celebrated that, and he loves you so much for it. And it was, if a quote normal couple other than me and Gloria had adopted Dakota, they'd have probably sent him off to military school like in third grade.
Wow.
Yeah. But so anyway, so that's how, God Almighty, that was his cul-de-sac, wasn't it?
That was a cul-de-sac, but that led you to Wolf's Message, which
Correct.
is a documentary.
Yes.
Which I suggest everyone watch. And that's based on Suzanne's best-selling book called Wolf's Message.
Correct.
And you brought that to life in a documentary.
I did. And that was a complete blessing and a little bit of a surprise. And the way the next step to get us to Wolf's Message came down was, Suzanne called Gloria and I after the reading, and after Dakota popped in on her a couple of times. She said, "Look, I'm one of the keynote speakers at the Helping Parents Heal conference, and
Yes. Okay.
with your permission, I would love to talk about Dakota." We're like, "Are you kidding us?" Yes, have at it. We would love for you to talk about Dakota.
And for those who don't know,
Helping
Helping
Parents
Parents
Heal.
Heal is for parents whose children have transitioned.
Correct.
And it's a really unique organization
It's
because
amazing.
it really embraces post-life.
It does.
I love that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a group, and it was the people running it now are Elizabeth and Irene. I'm terrible with the pronunciations, especially both of their last names, but they're wonderful, wonderful people. And it started out with I think Elizabeth co-founded it 2 weeks after her son passed away.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and what a beautiful thing to do with the grief to do that. Now it's got chapters all over the world, and it's a beautiful, beautiful group.
And it really legitimizes healing with speaking to our loved ones on the other side.
It does, and that's what makes them different from a lot of other grief groups for parents.
And people can go there and they can find legitimate, tested, evidential mediums who will not take advantage of anyone's vulnerability. So,
yeah.
Okay, so you went there, you spoke.
Well, she spoke, and the way that we got to Wolf's message, she said, "I wanted to talk about Dakota at the Helping Parents Heal conference." We said, "Absolutely." And during the reading, she had all these things that she was dead on about. And then some still didn't quite make a lot of sense, but she wanted to talk about the reading. She said, "I need pictures of this and this and this, like Dakota's shoes," because that was a big thing on it. Maybe some of his guitar stuff, da-da-da-da. And so somewhere in between the reading and then the Helping Parents Heal conference, Suzanne has a friend who's a psychic, and the psychic said, "There's going to be a movie made about your work within a year." And so, but Suzanne didn't know any filmmakers. She had she knew one filmmaker, really talented guy, and a couple of people from Hollywood had actually talked to her about Wolf's Message, the book, but she passed on it because they wanted to make it all sensationalized, like, there's a bad guy, there's a good guy. And so anyway, in the back and forth between me sending pictures to Suzanne, I sent it from my work email, which is jim@zuzafilms.com. She never noticed the signature that it was Zuza Films until one day she and Ty were driving somewhere, and she saw, "Oh my God, Zuza Films, Jim's a filmmaker. He's going to be the guy." And it was like, she said she knew right then that was the way it was going to happen. And then, and
you had never done a documentary before.
No, never had. I had done a lot of thousands of TV commercials and corporate videos and longer form videos for some clients. But, I'd never done a documentary. And, so she emailed me. I think this time she called me, said, "Have you ever read Wolf's Message?" And I said, "No." And by this point, she already knows. She's already got, to her spirit has already said, "This guy's the guy." But, me being the guy, I was an idiot and I had no idea. So she said, "Read Wolf's Message, watch my video called Heart Gifts," which is her really presenting this Wolf Passacarnis' story, but in a conference form. And so she's, so I read the book, watched the thing, and then she wrote this really vague, for Suzanne, a very vague email to me. And I couldn't tell whether she was asking me if I was interested in doing the documentary or what. I'm not that bright. And so I read it to my wife, Gloria, and she said, "I think she's asking you if you want to do the documentary." And I read it to my business partner, Mickey Cohen. And he said, "Sounds to me like she's asking you." So I didn't want to embarrass myself.
Right.
Because it's happened to everybody where somebody's waving and you wave back and you realize
You're like,
they're waving to the person behind you, and you're like, oh, what a dummy I am. So I didn't want to do that. So what I said was, I just said, hey, Suzanne, I've read the book now. I've watched the video. Can we set up a conference call? And so we did a Zoom call, and I think it was
good approach.
Yeah, because I didn't want to embarrass myself, and although I still went for it, but it was I think it was me, Suzanne, I believe Lynette may have been on there, and so anyway, I opened up the call. I said, thanks for doing this. I said, here's the way I see this movie opening up. And she said, at that point, she was completely sold, because by then I'd already figured out how it would open, how it would close, and how I would build the skeleton. And
wow,
so that was pretty cool. and then I did a similar call with Mike and Beth Passacarnis, who Wolf's Message, Wolf's dad and stepmom, and Suzanne was on that call. And when they told me that, they said, we would love for you to do this movie about Wolf. And it was, imagine, you're being trusted to do not only Suzanne's book, to tell her story, but also your son's legacy. I mean, what a huge honor, and what a scary proposition. I was terrified at first. I was like, oh my God, I guess I'm doing it.
I love the fact that it's your son, Dakota. It's Suzanne's stepdaughter, Susan,
right,
who transitioned, and Wolf,
right.
The three kids on the other side, kind of pulling the strings.
Yeah, very much so. Very much so. And one thing that I never met Susan, obviously. I certainly never met Wolf. He died in 2010, and she wrote the book, I think, in 2014. And, but in reading the book and hearing all about Wolf through Mike and Beth, and I saw a lot of Dakota in Wolf, because Wolf, he struggled here in a lot of ways. He was Dakota was never diagnosed schizophrenic, because he wasn't, but Wolf was diagnosed schizophrenic, and he kind of lived an outsider's life in a lot of ways. Wolf did, and Dakota did too, in a way. I mean, he had a really tight circle of friends, usually in his band. And but I saw a lot of Dakota and Wolf, and I think that was another thing that made me feel I could do a great job on it, because I'd have a lot of empathy and sympathy for Wolf as a young man. And
was it ever discussed, or did you ever consider bringing Dakota actually into the film, or was it because you kind of kept that separate? It was very clean.
Yeah, that's a great question, Chuck. I kept him out of it, except for that at the very end, it says for Suzanne Giesemann, Wolf, actually for Wolf Passacarnis, Suzanne Giesemann, and Dakota Spruell. That's the only time I brought him in. But because I felt the story. I mean, the book itself on Audible is 6.5 hours. I mean, that's a lot. That's a big sandwich to begin with. And one thing that I knew I had to do was to validate Suzanne, and to really make the story a lot more interesting and interwoven, was let Suzanne tell how she got to where she was.
It's perfect. I mean, the documentary is just brilliant, because you get an understanding of Suzanne and her work, and then you get an understanding about Wolf. And I love that Dakota may not be in the film, but his music is. So talk about that, because that's a huge part of this film.
Well, Dakota was with me throughout the whole thing. And at one point, and Suzanne didn't know this until recently, I think I told her, I almost backed out. I almost chickened out of doing this.
Really?
Oh, yeah. And my wife was the only one who knew that for a while, because I was like, I mean, both you guys are creative. It's one of those things where creative people have the worst uh, audience in their minds. You know, oh, you're going to do a documentary. Oh,
Mm.
wow, can't wait to see how much this sucks. It's that sort of thing. Like, oh, you're going to play a guitar solo? Oh,
The
yeah.
imposter syndrome.
Yeah, it is, and it's very, very real. And the biggest thing to me about it was that terrible voice that's always around, but it was more of the fear of like, I don't want to mess this up. That book is too amazing. The story itself is too amazing. Wolf Pasikarnis was amazing. Mike and Beth are amazing. And I was like, I don't want to, there's that great song, All Alone in the End Zone. I didn't want to be the guy that drops the ball in the middle of the end zone and all alone. But I've started meditating, and I started a couple of, I guess maybe now 3 years ago, just to shut off the brain, the monkey mind, as they say. And I tend to do it in the barn. We have horses, and we have 3 horses, and I tend to do it in the barn while they're eating their grain, because it's a beautiful, quiet place to be, and all you hear is like the horses chomping on grain. It's kind of beautiful, crunching away. And so, and I was really struggling with, can I do this? And Dakota came to me in no uncertain terms. He said, Dad, life is short. Dad, you need to do something different. And Dad, idiot, I'll be there the whole time. I'll be there, right there with you. I won't let you. And so,
did you feel when you were meditating? Mm-hmm. Did you set, like when you said he came to you? What did that look like?
It's that one was. I've got a place where I go in my mind's eye to meet with Dakota when I need him there, and it's a beautiful setting, and
that's beautiful.
Yeah, and so this one was a little bit more like I could feel him right here in my face, like, Dad. It was a little bit more. It was less beautiful and peaceful and all that. It was like, Dad, I'm
wake up.
Yeah, come on, man, come on, and it was so that was it was a little bit different from most times when he's with me in meditation. Usually, that's a very peaceful thing. It's maybe this will help some of your viewers, but I mean, I always picture him. He and I meet each other. It's this beautiful, ethereal, small lake with woods around it, and he just walks out, and his hair was, when he passed, was down way past his shoulders, and he's looking rock and roll as he always did. He's wearing a long shirt. We walk out into the middle of the lake, but we don't get wet and we don't sink, and that's where we stand and talk. And
I love that.
Really a beautiful thing that has slowly evolved, and I know that he made that happen as well. But wow. Yeah, so that's Jim almost didn't do it, and imagine the regrets I would have had. But he was there, and so as far as the music and stuff, we did. I did a lot of small pieces throughout the film, and I also wrote the song at the end that plays over the credits. It's called Wolf Song. And it's, and that literally, Dakota just dumped that one on me all at one time. I should have brought it in here. It looks like a madman's writing, just like, scribble, scribble, scribble on the back of it was just a scrap piece of paper. And I changed when I went to actually record it. I only changed one line in the whole thing. It was everything from the key, and Chuck, you're a musician, you'll appreciate this. Everything from the key, the rhyme scheme, the meter of it, the melody line, and it was like even the bridge, which I always struggle with bridges, but it was like, there's the bridge. Holy cow, man! And it was like,
where were you exactly when this came to you?
I was on that one. I was sitting. I've got a chair I sit in to do most of my writing. Is up on the main floor, and it's next to an old English pub table, and it's and I just sit there and I mean, but it came, and I like handwriting stuff like that versus like typing it, although I've done that too. But it was like, just a scrap of paper. And then,
Yeah.
I remember I put on it Wolf's song ? And then once I got a guitar out and actually played through, I was like, hell yeah. I was like, wrote
Yeah.
that on the thing too. So, but that's why
And what is
so
that? Yeah, what is that song about?
it's sung from the perspective of Wolf Passacarnis, and it's the opening line is so misunderstood, but my heart was good. I just wish I could go home. Because it was all about, he was trying to get home, and he lived in two worlds. And it's really Wolf's story, some from the perspective of Wolf, and how he finally made it home. And it's it says a lot in 2 minutes, but it was a complete gift from Dakota. I mean, it was just like, here you go.
Can I go off on a slight tangent? I was reading basically about musicians channeling music. There was a quote by Dylan recently, and it's quite an admission by him, but he was basically saying, I couldn't write the songs I wrote 40, 50 years ago now, he said, because then I was just channeling something that wasn't it wasn't me. It was just coming through me,
I agree.
It's kind of interesting. What you're talking about with Wolf's song.
Yeah.
It seems similar, very well, quite clearly similar.
Yeah, it was.
It
was
this vessel.
Yeah, I had very little to do with it, except for, actually finally recording it. And, but the key is you have to be open to it. And, in our first reading with Suzanne, she talked about, at one point, and she didn't, at that point, she knew I played guitar and stuff, but it wasn't, wasn't big. But in the middle of it, Dakota said, Dad, where do you think those lyrics come from? Talking to me, and that was way before Wolf's Message was a thing. And so.
Wow.
Yeah. Oh, a couple other wow things in that first reading that played out, if you will, in real life later. A couple of the things that made no sense at all in our first reading, where again, we barely knew Suzanne. We knew her as the lady that wrote the Upside Down Backwards book, and she had no idea what I did for a living, yada yada. And in the middle of the reading, she said, "He's saying his name is going to be in lights." Talking about Dakota, and she said he's going premiere. He's saying his name and going premiere, and and then cut to. At the premiere, there's Dakota's name in lights, if you will, at the end of the movie. And so that was pretty cool. So.
Wow.
Like a circle of friends, the light of nature had found me. Now the journey never ends. Underneath the tree where I had to be,
the documentary has gone on to win awards, and more importantly, it's really changed a lot of people's views
Yes.
about the afterlife. Are you surprised about people's reaction?
No, well, yes and no. I'm surprised that I'm a little surprised that people are so honest and coming up to me like after screenings. Well, I went to a few screenings. I mean, Suzanne did 30 all over the country. I think I went to a handful, and people would come up after the screening with tears in their eyes, and they'd say, like, your movie brought me great comfort. I lost, some people, I lost my spouse, I lost my son, I lost my daughter, my parents, a loved one, a lover, whatever. And your movie has given me hope. It has given me hope. And so that has been a beautiful surprise. But on the other hand, it's hard to look at that story, Wolf's Message story, at face value and not be like, oh my God, that's if that is true, and I believe with all my heart that is a true story, because it is, then what an amazing thing, and people need to know this, and then you're not surprised that they have this reaction. You know what I mean? It's like,
It really does change everything.
yeah, it does. It does, because it allows you as a soul living in a body here, if you want to get right down to it, it it makes it makes death a lot less fearful. In fact, there's no fear if you truly believe that your body will die, but your spirit never will, and then wow, it helps. It kind of lets you live this life a little bit more full tilt boogie.
And I also love that you can still have this ongoing relationship with your loved ones. It doesn't end.
No.
So it's, that you have an ongoing relationship with Dakota. I was listening to one of your podcasts. I don't know if it was a podcast, it was more like a video, but the freedom in not caring if you look stupid, which I love.
Yeah.
Which I love. So talk about that, because that really played into the chances that you took on this documentary, and also just how you live your life.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good. I'm glad you listened to that. That's a good one. I've done. I haven't done many episodes of my podcast. I think I've done 9, and that's only because I'm lazy, and if I've got work, I don't do them. And so, luckily, I've only done 9. I've only done 9 in 8 years. So
let me interrupt quickly. I hear that only 1% of all podcasters ever do 10, so you have to do one more just to put yourself in the top.
Yeah, I'll try to make it. That's great, Chuck. I'll try to make it to 11. These go to 11, and
this one goes to 11. Yeah,
goes to 11.
But anyway, go on.
Yeah. But yeah, that one was called "Don't Be Afraid to Look Stupid." I think is
right, and you play you play like I can hear the actor from Sanford and Son at the beginning.
Oh yeah. Stupid. Yeah. I put a lot of little snippets in the intros to those, and that relate to the episode itself. But yeah, that one, it goes all the way back to my parents. And,
I know. That's why I want to talk about it, because that's an amazing, because I think about you, and I'm wondering, how did he get like this? Like, what did you believe in before Dakota transitioned?
Right.
I really do sense that Native American Indian in you.
No, thank you.
I so sense that. But I want to hear a little bit more about how you were raised.
Yeah. Well, we grew up with very, very little. I was talking to my sister about it the other day, and and my cousin. We grew up with very little money. That's the best way to say it.
And where? Where?
In Taylors, South Carolina, which is in Greenville County. So, Greenville County, and it's we were in sort of the working class area of Taylors, and small houses, but our house was always completely full of love. And I knew, and this is in the podcast, I knew when I walked out the front door, I could go out there and fail dismally. I could just completely choke, bomb, whatever you want to call it. And I would come in and still be loved. And what a beautiful, it's the greatest gift a kid can get from their parents. I mean, I knew going out that door, I could really just screw up and I'd still be loved by my mom and dad when I came in. And so what that did was, even at a young age, I mean, I was still a regular kid in a lot of ways, but it gave me an underlying confidence in, like, okay, there's not that big a risk, because no matter what, my mom and dad will love me. And what a cool way to grow up, and I was lucky. I mean, even on that street, there was a lot of turmoil on that street, with families and issues and all sorts of mess, and but our little house was kind of like a little idyllic thing with no air conditioning for quite a while, by the way. I think by the time we moved out, when I was in the going into the 9th grade, we had one air conditioning unit in a window. That was
Wow.
So we would crowd around that. So it was, we didn't have any money, but there was a lot of love, and so that led to a lot of other things where I just took a chance, and the way that I even got into advertising, which I did for decades and decades and decades, was I played football in high school, and our second string quarterback's dad worked for a local ad agency. And I was like, hey, could I talk to your dad about a career? This is in high school, senior in high school. So I took my little drawings of Jimi Hendrix and, stuff, and a terrible portfolio. And I go to this head of this pretty big ad agency in South Carolina, and I'm showing him this stuff. And I could have never done that, and it would have never led to me going to the University of Georgia, because the guy said, well, you need to either go to UGA or go to Ringling School of Art. I didn't want to go to an art school, went to UGA, and it just took off from there. And in fact, the man that hired me straight out of the University of Georgia just passed away on New Year's Eve. And he
From
was
Washington, D.C.?
Yeah, I was in D.C. right out of college. Yeah. I gave my final presentation on a Thursday, and I started my job on Monday in D.C.
And what was his name? He just passed away.
His name was Alan Weitzman, and he was a complete character. And he was one of those guys that got cooler as he got older. I don't know if you guys know people like that. Maybe Chuck's like that.
No.
But,
yeah.
Only you.
Alan,
only you.
He was the first person that hired you. I love it.
Hired me right out of college, and we reconnected about a year ago, and he even sent me a couple of his guitars and stuff. But he was an incredible photographer. I mean, his photography was incredible, and but also a musician. He ran an ad agency and all that stuff, and he loved that. But he also realized the value in having a life outside of advertising that could actually make your advertising better.
Wow.
But he was an amazing dude, and yeah, and he was in his 80s, so he lived a really cool life. So God bless you, Alan.
Hi, Alan.
I want to talk. So because you're a musician of some note, at what age did you start playing guitar?
Okay,
an instrument.
Guitar in the third grade.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, actually, yeah. Fifth grade, I think. Fifth grade. Yeah. And no, it was third. Fifth, I got my first electric guitar. That's what it was. And then, but I hated practicing. I had I'm sure he's long gone, but terrible teacher. What he would have me learn how to read, music, and I'm glad I can read music and I know music theory and all that sort of stuff. But instead of having me learn how to sight read above the 12th fret and the Lydian scale and stuff like that, if he would have said, you know why you need to know the Lydian scale, Jim? It's because it's what Tony Iommi of Black Sabbath plays on Laguna Sunrise. If he'd have done that, I'd be like, oh yeah, man. But he didn't. And what I would do as a little kid was, I would take my lesson with the teacher, go back to the house, and my mom would make me practice an hour a day. I would shut my bedroom door. I had a little small little reel to reel. I would record the lesson one time, rewind it, and then play and rewind, play and rewind. So when my mom walked by the door, she thought I was actually playing guitar and doing my lesson, and I was sitting there reading a book or whatever. So
that's very clever.
It was clever, but the teacher hated me for it. In fact, his last words to me were, "You're wasting my time and your parents' money." And so I just said, but what's interesting is the minute I quit taking lessons is when I started really getting serious about guitar.
Really?
Yeah, because then it was like I knew enough to be dangerous, but now I could take what knowledge I had and apply it to music I was interested in. So I could learn. Yeah.
What were you interested in? Who were some of your influences?
Oh man, early on it was. And I think this helps me with harmonies and stuff. I loved Three Dog Night. I'm older than both of you guys, but it was like I loved Three Dog Night. Great harmonies. I was crushed when I found out they didn't write any of their own material, though.
Oh, didn't they? I didn't know.
No, God, no. They were they were a cover band in essence. But because of that, I learned about Laura Nyro. Randy Newman wrote a lot of stuff for Three Dog Night and stuff. So from a harmony standpoint, and also I grew up in church listening to my mom sing alto, which was cool because I could read music. So I knew what the rest of the congregation was singing. And then she's doing this cool little alto thing underneath it. So I loved harmonies. So Three Dog Night, I also loved Black Sabbath. I was a big Black Sabbath, early Sabbath. And then, so those were my two biggies. And then, at that period, and then, became a huge Joe Walsh fan.
Okay.
And through Joe Walsh, I learned the blues because, he was in the James Gang and all that sort of stuff, but he was also, I would become obsessed with an artist, like with Joe Walsh. He was on the cover of, Guitar Player magazine, and I loved him just from his physicality because he was not a really good looking guy. And I was like, I can do that. I don't look like Peter Frampton. I can look like Joe Walsh. So, he wasn't a pretty boy. And, but anyway, so he was on, I started studying.
He's a rocker.
He was a rocker. So I started studying Walsh. Well, he was on a B.B. King album called L.A. Midnight. So I started getting into blues. I didn't particularly like B.B. King's guitar tone because it was too thin and not mean enough. But through him, I got into Albert Collins. Great guitar tone, heavy, and all that sort of stuff. But it started with Joe Walsh, and he did a song on his James Gang Live album called You're Gonna Need Me, which is an Albert King song. But he did it through massive Marshalls. And it was like my introduction into heavy blues. And so I went down a blues path for a long time. But at the same time, I loved great songwriters. I loved Jim Croce. I studied Croce. He was. All that stuff. It was so good. And so I studied, singer songwriters like.
So you were in a band with Mike Mills from R.E.M. You were in a band with him. That's pretty cool.
It is cool. And the way that happened, in fact, I just did, there's a guy in Spain doing a documentary, and he tracked me down through Facebook because somebody put pictures on Facebook of me and Mike playing in my band called Crossfire. And it was me, Mike Mills, Kenny Holly was on drums, great drummer. We still play some. And, but yeah, Mills was in our dorm, and Kenny met Mike and basically said, "Hey, I know this guy, Jim. He's a great guitar player. We should jam." So we jammed, and then we ended up playing a few shows. And, Mike mentioned us on a podcast about 2 years ago, and Kenny was elated because he'd never even admitted like he was in our band. And he was like, "Yeah, I was in a dorm band. And we were called Crossfire. I'm still in touch with a couple of those guys, me and Kenny." And so, but yeah, but we were basically a cover band, and I was getting ready to graduate. Kenny was going to graduate. We are going to go get real jobs in the real, in the real world. And Mike had just started playing with REM. And I remember after our last, and he was like, "Guys, I'm really going to just concentrate on REM." I was like, "Oh, good luck." No, because it made all the sense in the world, because we were done. We were graduating and going on, and REM was just starting out. And after our last rehearsal with Mike, I remember loading his bass amp through the church window, because they were rehearsing in an old abandoned church. They weren't squatters. I think they were paying rent, but it was an old church. And I think they were all living there too, as well. And,
oh, that's great.
Yeah. So as time went on, they got bigger and bigger and bigger. It was kind of cool, because it was like, I know that guy. And he's a real sweetheart. And what he loved was playing. He just loved to play music. And, so he's doing great.
And you were in a band, Myriad?
I was in a band called Myriad. Yeah. Good homework, Chuck.
Is that that was, I mean, what was the main band?
I like that name, Myriad.
Myriad Myriad was my high school, early college band, and then it was Crossfire. Yeah, okay. Yeah. Myriad goes all the way back to senior year in high school, and we made a 45, highly collectible.
You did?
Yeah, we did, and it was called.
Fun.
I wrote one side, and the keyboard player Ted Blaney wrote the B side. Or he would probably say I was the B side, he was the A side. But it was, we did it at a little studio in Greenville, South Carolina. We thought we were rock stars. They played it on the radio a couple of times. We were like, yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's a big deal.
It was a huge deal.
So when you left college, then what was pulling you? You pulled more by, I'm going to make it in a band, or I'm going to make it in advertising.
I went for advertising, because by then I'd sort of learned how hard it was to be a rock star. Yeah. And I thought, well, it's easier I don't have to travel as much if I'm in an ad agency. And I enjoyed it. I mean, it was, I was married to my now ex-wife, and it was, it was just starting in quote, the real world. And we did, I moved, like I say, I gave my final presentation in Athens on Thursday, started my job in DC on Monday. And it was great. I mean, it was a cool way to use my art degree, because I have a Bachelor of Fine Arts from UGA. Is a cool way to use my music, because, TV spots and all that needed music and stuff like that. And it was, quote, a real job, and, but I never quit playing guitar. And then when my marriage broke up, then I was off the chain. It was like, I could be in bands, because I was a little, I was not really, encouraged to do so in that relationship. So I started a band almost immediately afterwards, and it was called Pretty Face. And we were sort of a poor man's Aerosmith. We were big hair, ripped t-shirts. I'm 6'2" when I stand up straight, and I probably weighed about 135 pounds.
Wow.
Big hair, blonde, no beard, and Marshall amps, and we were good. I mean, we were a really good riff rock band, and but there's always a turning point, like a moment. And, Pretty Face had been playing live in DC, Baltimore, Richmond area, the Pacific Northwest, for about a year and a half. And we were playing a club that we played a lot. And, I came off stage and I was really mad. I was like, damn it. And Gloria was my fiance at the time. I said, did you hear me blow the second verse and the second song? She said, sweetheart, nobody hears a word you say. Because we were just like this loud rock band, and I was like, huh, now they're crappy lyrics, but I put a lot of time into them. So I really shifted at that point. I was like, we still played for maybe another 4 months. Pretty Face did. And we had a decent following. So Pretty Face was going away and I knew it was going to go away, but I started really concentrating on lyrics and melody lines and stuff like that versus like, oh, here's a cool rock riff, and so it shifted my head back into the people I've been studying all along, the Randy Newmans, even Leonard Cohen, all the more songwriter guys. And so music was always there. But advertising was what I did. Yeah. And it still is.
I saw a video that I think your son directed it or filmed it, and it's called for the song Seeds.
Yeah. Yeah. That was, boy, y'all did your homework. Yeah.
But that was amazing. I mean, you were really so very talented. Talk about that.
Thank you. Yeah. That was Dakota coming to me. He knew he wanted to do something in film. And I was still, at that time, I was at the tail end of my advertising career before I started my own film company. And, but I'd always done TV commercials for like decades, like I say. But as a creative director in an ad agency versus the director. But Dakota wanted a demo reel. And I said, well, why don't you do a video for one of my songs? I said, it can be an instrumental. And I had this song called Seeds, and it is, your viewers should check it out. It's pretty cool. And it's sort of like, to me, it's like a heavy, Pink Floyd-ish sort of vibe. I don't know what you think, Sandy, but that's the way it hits me.
Well, it's got some great, was that all Dakota who put that together?
Yeah, Dakota shot all that, and I helped him cut it. But
it's great with the passages from the Bible and the imagery.
And the song itself is a quote instrumental, and I don't know if Chuck's gotten to hear it or not, but it's instead of Jim singing lyrics or something like that, I found an AM preacher. And I lifted him. He was doing that, one of these hellfire and brimstone kind of guys, my job is to plant the sow to seed. And he's screaming at you the way a lot of Southern Baptist preachers did when I was a kid. You don't forget that stuff. And I thought, well, I'm going to use that as the lyrics and the verse. And so you've got this heavy, dark, dense guitar stuff going on with this guy, sort of yelling at you about God. And, so Dakota took that and he said, I think it all needs to be shot in black and white. It should all be shot at night. And so we literally shot that with a camera. Like some of the lights that we used were the headlights from my wife's car.
Really, I need to see this. This sounds amazing.
It's pretty cool.
That's really interesting about Dakota having that flair for filmmaking and then playing such a big part in Wolf's Message, the documentary.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because he was like a co-filmmaker with you.
He was. And he was also, the way that, the editorial went on Wolf's Message was, I did what I call a paper cut. Like I went through all the hours and hours and hours and hours of transcripts and pulled out, like I would say, okay, it needs to cut from, and it was very specific, like mix pro, Darien, Georgia, speaker 2 minutes and 35 seconds in, kill the first line, but keep all this, and then cut to Plymouth, Massachusetts, and then I handed it over to Mikey, who was our actual hands-on editor, and he took it and worked his magic with it. But during that very painful, very arduous task of going through all those, going through all the transcripts. Dakota was right there with me. I mean, I'd get this little, sometimes I would literally hear his voice like, "Hey, Dad, now I think now you talk to one of his friends." It's like, I mean, oh, okay, you're right, bud. Let's go there.
Wow.
And then sometimes it was just this nudge that sped up the process like that. I mean, it was like, yeah, it was arduous, and yeah, it was hard and a lot of work, but it was also like, it was like I had a director going, okay, turn left here, or turn left here, turn right here. I think now is when you need to let Suzanne do her thing. And it was extremely helpful. So thank you, Dakota.
Wow.
Good job,
Yeah.
man.
Has making the film whetted your appetite for like doing more documentaries? Have you
Yes.
been exploring more sort of projects?
Yes. Right now. Yeah. Right now we're actually exploring two different approaches that we're working on with the same team. It's myself, Dana, our producer, and Willie Giles, who was our executive producer and also a technical director. And we've got two things. One is going to be, one is a series that we're actually going to try to get done through a Hulu, a Netflix, some platform like that. And then the other one is going to be more of a crowdfunding type thing. So they're
Well, the kind of the online platforms or crowdsourcing, that's all very trendy these days, isn't it? So
it is. Hopefully, we'd love for that to happen. I mean, Wolf's Message, we had one donor, which is unbelievable, and
Wow.
and that was a beautiful gift. Thank you, Nancy. And it was, but I don't think we're not gonna have that sort of approach on either one of those two. So
we could do so many more podcasts with you.
I'm around.
What's the best advice you've ever been given?
Wow. I've been given so much. I've been helped so many times along the way. I'll say this. It was probably, my dad was a very simple man, very creative in that he could fix anything, cars and stuff like. I did not get that from him, but and I've used this with Dakota, and I've used it with Savannah, and he was real Southern. He talked like this, and gentle soul, big godly man, and I remember one time I failed in something, and he said, "Son, all you can do is your best." And I always thought that was genius on such a, as long as you do your best, that's all you can do. And the rest of it, you can't worry about. And so I'll go with that one. Dad saying, all you can do is your best. So I used that a couple times. Yeah, it was pretty good. I'm sure I got better ones, but that was a good one.
You can write a whole book of the ones that you have. I do have one more question, and that is, we're starting off the new year. Today's January 3rd, 2026. What words of inspiration do you have for people out there who are grieving and in despair and sad? This is that time of year, especially. Share what you'd like to share.
I would say if they're grieving a loss, know that they aren't lost. They're still right there with you. Talk to them, and look for the signs that they're there. They're right there with you. Dakota gave us one last 2 days ago. It was awesome. Okay, I was getting rid of some of his little, when he passed, like I say, he was 6'1", rock star guy, but one of the private schools he went to for kids with learning issues, I was getting rid of a bunch of those old school uniforms, when his pants were like this big. But I was going through all the pockets, all of his shirts and his jackets when he was little and stuff. And I've kept anything that's even slightly memorable, a memory inducing thing. A lot of Beatle t-shirts and stuff. But, I talked to him the whole time and I said, buddy, if there's a treasure in one of these pockets, please help me find it. Please help me find it. I was doing that, taking it Goodwill, doing it. And the very, very last pair of Mill Springs Academy pants, I reached in there and there was a orange guitar pick that I've got in my pants right now. Yeah. So that was
really
cool. That was
when
cool.
was that?
That was 2 days ago. And then when I was about 6 months ago, I was taking down his bunk bed finally. He's transitioned 4 years ago. So in his bunk bed, he was too, it was from when he was a little kid, but he didn't want a regular bed. He's like, I just sleep in that, So anyway, I got rid of it, and that was really hard. That was really hard.
Mm.
And so I was taking it down, putting it in the car, and I was loading in the last bit. And again, I've been taking it to the car, because there's a lot of wood, And then the last thing, I'm throwing it in the back thing, and son of a gun, there's a pick. He loves guitar picks. There's a guitar pick sitting in the back of the SUV, right where I've been loading this stuff in time after time after time after time for about an hour and a half. And there it is, sitting right there, plain as day. Like,
wow.
wasn't there the whole eight or nine other trips I've made. So,
wow.
I love that. Thank you for being our very first guest of 2026.
Yes.
You'll be back again for sure.
Yeah. Well, for the next project.
And we thank you so much, Dakota. Thank you for joining us today.
Yeah.
And we love you.
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much.
It's been wonderful. All right.
Love you
Bye,
guys.
everybody. Oh, hold on. I always forget this. So I'm going to put some links below. So where can people find you?
You can find me, if you want to see some of my film work, you can go to zuzafilms.com, Zuza films.com. You can also look up Jim Spruell on YouTube. You'll see everything from music stuff to interviews with and by Suzanne Giesemann. You can find some of the early stuff that I've done with my friend Peter Stroud that plays with Sheryl Crow.
Wow.
The only thing I'll say about that is it was shot a few years ago. We didn't know his wife was going to record us jamming. And unfortunately, he and I are both wearing khaki shorts and black T-shirts. So we look like a bad act at Six Flags. So just avoid that. So,
we're definitely not going to avoid that.
Yeah.
Right. Well, if we ever need a bad act,
yes,
at Six Flags,
we're available.
That's the one. Yeah. Well, I'll put links below to all this. Yeah, it's been great having you, man. It really has been.
Thanks,
really
Chuck.
cool
Thanks, Sandy.
Thank you.
Chill out here. Okay. And also ask everyone subscribe, like, and all that. Blah, blah, blah. But until the next time, bye.
Bye.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Happy New Year.
Bye.
This is a song called Five Black Angels, and it's really about my guardian angels. Now I do sound completely nutty, but I had a very, very, very vivid dream where my guardian angels revealed themselves to me, and they were all five elderly African-American women, and it's called Five Black Angels.
Late last night in a wintry dream, five black angels came to me. Muddy boots and well-worn smiles made me feel like a little lost child. path I'd taken, I was more than a little mistaken. My son. Asked him about my mama Marie. They said she said hello to me. Said she missed my boyhood laugh. Said she knew I was broken in half. Said she knew my heart was good. She'd hold me when she could. My son. 5 black angels. 5 black angels. 5 black angels. Yeah, 5 black angels. I said, do you have to go? So much more I need to know. They just smiled and stroked my hair. They said, son, you know we're always there. When you laugh or when you grieve, think of us and you'll believe. My son. Said they knew my heart was good. They'd hold me when they could. My son. Said they'd seen the path I'd taken. I was more than a little mistaken. My son. My son. 5 black angels. 5 black angels. Yeah, yeah. 5 black angels. 5 black angels. 5 black angels. 5 black angels. Yeah, yeah. 5 black angels. 5 black angels.